Last year, I ran a Holocaust Remembrance Day program in which members of our university community spent 2 hours taking turns reading the names of the victims of the Holocaust. One of my students broke down in tears halfway through his turn. He managed not only to compose himself and continue reading, but also to do an interview with a local television news station afterwards. When they asked him what it felt like to participate in this program, he said, "I can't picture 6 million of anything. What I can picture is that reading of 5 minutes of names and the 1-year-old who was murdered. I can picture that, and that hurts." I could spend my time here today talking about the recent study conducted by the Pew Research Center entitled "What Americans Know About the Holocaust," which was published just a few days ago on January 22nd. I could point out that the results of the study demonstrate that less than half of American adults know how many Jews were killed in the Holocaust, or that in 2018, the Anti-Defamation League recorded the 3rd highest total of anti-Semitic incidents in the US since they began collecting data 40 years ago. I could discuss how the Pew Center believes that these findings raise an important question. Are those who underestimate the death toll simply uninformed, or are they Holocaust deniers? People with anti-Semitic views who claim that the Holocaust was invented or exaggerated by Jews as part of a plot to advance Jewish interests. But instead, I would like to tell you a story about one person's journey from Auschwitz to forgiveness. That person is my friend, my mentor, one of the most inspiring people I've ever met, Eva Mosescourt. In 1944, Eva and her family were forced into a cattle car packed with other Jewish prisoners and transported to the Auschwitz concentration camp. Eva and her twin sister Miriam were 10 years old. At Auschwitz, the girls were ripped apart from their mother, father, and 2 older sisters, never to see any of them again. Eva and Miriam became part of a group of children used as human guinea pigs in genetic experiments under the direction of the now infamous Dr. Joseph Mengele. Approximately 1,500 sets of twins were abused for the sake of scientific research and societal progress, and most died as a result of these experiments. Eva herself became gravely ill, but through sheer determination, she stayed alive because she knew that if she were to die, Miriam would be killed. Approximately 200 children were found alive by the Soviet Army at the liberation of the camp on January 27, 1945, 75 years ago. The majority of the children were Mengele twins. Eva and Miriam were among them. In 1995, Eva opened Candles Holocaust Museum and Education Center in Indiana with a mission to prevent prejudice and hatred through education about eugenics, the Holocaust, and the power of forgiveness. Thousands of people, including school children, religious leaders, college students, political leaders, have visited Candles since it opened. In 2003, an anti-Semitic arsonist destroyed the museum. But Eva rebuilt it, because that is the kind of person Eva was. I had the pleasure of meeting Eva the first time in 2017 when we founded the center at Misericordia University. The first night I met her, I promised that I would do everything I could to help her share her message. And so, as I stand here today, 75 years after Eva was liberated from Auschwitz, I will do my best to honor her memory and pass along her message. The Holocaust is unique in that it is an instance of medically sanctioned genocide. So when we talk about the Holocaust, we're talking about an example of a time when science and medicine were used to justify the mass killing of people who were considered to be unfit. It's important to understand the power that science and medicine have and the way in which that power can be used for good or abused. In order to fully appreciate current situations that we face, beginning of life care, end of life care, healthcare policy, issues in law, we really need to understand what took place during the Holocaust and the role that medicine and science had. When we talk about eugenics and the idea of bettering society by improving human heredity, we're talking about something that was an internationally accepted scientific theory that was used as the justification for the murder of millions of innocent victims. This did not start with the murder of Jews. This started with the murder of people who were considered to be mentally unfit or physically unfit. So when we talk about the Holocaust, when we talk about its relevance for modern society, we need to understand that this is a human issue. It's not solely a Jewish issue. Social issues were medicalized. So the idea of medicalization, the idea of dehumanization are very important. And these ideas continue to be important when we talk about current issues, when we talk about genetic engineering, when we're talking about stem cell research, CRISPR, we're talking about, again, anything with beginning of life care, end of life care, medical experimentation. Any time where we're taking science and talking about science for the sake of science, as opposed to science for the sake of improving the human condition, we have a problem and we need to explore that. German eugenics in particular. German eugenics looked to American eugenics. That's important to understand as a role model. American eugenics really were the leaders in the field at the time with the sterilization laws. Again, I don't really want to focus so much on the history of it because I feel like to talk a little bit more about the personal side, to talk a little bit more about what we all can do, to me, on International Holocaust Remembrance Day, resonates a little bit more strongly. But there is a strong history of eugenics in terms of being an internationally accepted scientific theory. In Germany, individuals were viewed as parts of a whole. This is very important to understand. Typically, when you think about a doctor-patient relationship, you think about a relationship between individuals. You think about the doctor doing what's in the best interest of the patient. But in Nazi Germany, that was not the case. There was a shift from caring for the individual to caring for society. And that shift was key. Because that shift is what allowed the mass murder by physicians, people who took an oath to protect the vulnerable and sick members of society. That's what allowed that to take place. Because all of a sudden, the vulnerable and sick members of society were considered to be a burden. They were considered to be a threat to the strength of the nation, to the future of the nation. So imagine if you went to the doctor because you had some type of condition and you're in a very vulnerable space, but instead of the doctor offering some type of advice, some type of treatment for healing, the doctor instead is instructed under this new system of medical ethics not to help you, heal you, because you may be genetically inferior and there's a risk that you may spread that to future generations. It's important to understand that there was a system of medical ethics in Nazi Germany. And if we don't understand that, that's one of the biggest mistakes that we can make. It's just not the system of ethics that we today, society first, that put progress first, that put the nation first, not the individual. So, going back to my friend Eva. Eva was experimented on. And I had the opportunity to interview Eva. And one of the things, she would go and she would lecture to people and she would talk to them about her experience. And she would tell people, I was just treated as a subject to experiment. not as a human being. I don't think there was one single effort to make us feel human. You sit here, you do that, we're going to inject you, we're going to take blood from you. Never any concern for the person who was in front of them. Jews and the other people they dehumanized, they were not human beings. There was no effort on their part. We knew that. We were just there to provide the, in this case, fodder for their experiments. That's all we were. So we're talking about dehumanization. We're talking about treating people not as individuals, but only using them for the sake of science. She said, "What I am finding very difficult to understand is how any human being can treat another human being that way. What kind of a sick mentality gives a human being the right to treat another human being that way?" So when I talk about ethics in medicine, I point that out. That did not only happen in Nazi Germany. That can happen in any society that values the medical research more than the human being that the research is conducted on. The simple thing to do is say, if I were the human subject or the research subject, would I want to be treated that way? And if the answer is no, you are doing something wrong. You have to change it. It's not that complicated. Put yourself for a very short time in the place of your subject, and then you will get all the answers. So, how do we do this, right? How do we honor Eva's memory moving forward? What do we do? Why are we all here today? It's simple. In order to do that, we need to remember the past, protect the future. But there's one important missing piece from that, and that's that we need to act now. The way that the Maimonides Institute does that, the way that I have chosen to do that, is by transcending boundaries. We need to understand that this is a human issue. It crosses over. So it's intergenerational, it's interfaith, it's interprofessional, and it's international. There are times when I will go and I will speak to people in a synagogue, and it comes across as just being a Jewish issue. I, as someone who is Jewish, talking to other people as someone who is Jewish, as a part of Jewish history. It is a part of Jewish history, that's true, but it's more than that. And if we don't start understanding that it's more than that, then we're at risk for repeating the same mistakes. One of the ways we can do this is by working together and collaborating with people from other nations, other professions, like this wonderful issue of the Conatus journal that we just published. As you've heard already, what was so great about this was that people from all different disciplines came together to write about this. These are people that are not just Jewish people. These are people that were not just from America. These were people that represent different faiths, different cultures, different nations, different professions, but all understand the importance of coming together to learn about this and to teach about this. We have the Department of Bioethics and the Holocaust of the UNESCO Chair in Bioethics. Again, this is something that crosses over internationally. There's an upcoming conference in May. That's actually where I first met Professor Proto-Papadakis over here. And they do great work. They allow us to teach this. I do a webinar on the Holocaust and human dignity. I do a webinar for them, I would say approximately every 6 to 9 months, that speaks to medical students in India, Pakistan, and Africa. I'm not going to lie to you, as somebody who lives in New Jersey, that is not an audience that I typically have access to, and it's fantastic to be able to talk to people who I would not otherwise have the opportunity to speak to, and be able to talk to them, because there's a universality that's involved in this topic, human dignity that's involved in this topic that cuts across boundaries. Intergenerational is my favorite part. This is a picture of Eva Moses Kor at Auschwitz. This picture that you see on the screen behind you is a very famous picture that was taken the day Eva was liberated. This picture is at Auschwitz, and every year in June, Eva would go to Auschwitz and take 100 people there. She would go back to the place where she was experimenting on with 100 people so she could teach them and tell them her story. And I think that's amazing. I don't know how she did it, but she did it. So we decided one year that we were going to take a college basketball team from the United States with us, because they're future leaders and they have a platform to make a difference. So we took them with us. None of them were Jewish. None of them had any real background in the Holocaust. And every one of them left there changed. And every one of them left there talking about their experience and the need to promote human dignity. Eva, just so you know, she was very tiny. Basketball players were very tall. And Eva thought that was hysterical. She was very funny. And she recreated the liberation walk that she took with them. Again, the day that she was liberated. It was a very powerful moment. It was a very, very moving, inspirational moment. And some of these kids are going to go on to play professional basketball. And I guarantee you they will never forget this moment. I continue to talk to them. I just went to go see them play a game a couple of weeks ago. And they come up to me and they tell me all the time what an impact this had on them. And how it made them understand the importance of treating every individual with respect and dignity. In November, we had the opportunity, thanks to Father Philotheus, to hold an international scientific symposium in Dortmund, Germany on the anniversary of Kristallnacht. It was an opportunity to work with the Greek Orthodox Church and has since led to the creation of a larger project intended to foster not only a continued partnership with the Greek Orthodox Church, but also with other faiths and cultures in an effort not only to remember the Holocaust and promote Holocaust education, but also to stand together against the recent increase in anti-Semitism throughout the world. When you think about all the major religious traditions, at the core, they all promote human dignity and respect for the individual life. This is what we do at Misericordia University as well. We talk about the importance of treating the individual with respect, treating the individual with dignity, and we discuss difficult issues. We provide a safe space to discuss difficult issues with that framework. We incorporate these core values that are found really at the heart of all religions as we discuss issues in bioethics, health law, even things, politics, immigration, all these different things. We talk about all of these, right? Because we're bringing people together, because we're stronger united than we are divided. We created a pledge to preserve human dignity in healthcare. I have copies up here, and I'm more than happy to give to everyone, with the idea being that everyone can do something. So some people choose to contribute to a journal. Some people choose to attend a conference. This is something you can go online and you can sign it, and you've taken a step. You've done something today as we commemorate International Holocaust Remembrance Day to make the world a better place. You can see that I'm wearing a pin. This is a pin that shows your support for dignity, respect, equality, and justice. One of the first people to sign the pledge and wear the pin was Eva. So, the important thing, what lessons can we learn from this? What can we take away? We must learn from history, right? Remember the past, protect the future. Perhaps more importantly, we must not be indifferent to what is happening right now. Respect for the individual should always be given priority over science for the sake of science. We learned that during the Holocaust, and we have to continue to understand that today. We are all members of humankind, and we are all entitled to be treated with dignity and respect. But that also means that we all have a duty to treat others with dignity and respect. Holocaust education must transcend boundaries, because we're stronger united than we are divided. So to think that this is just an issue that pertains to Jewish history is to do a great disservice. We must do better. We can see from the rise in anti-Semitism, we can see from the Pew report that I mentioned earlier, the world is forgetting. The world is forgetting the lessons of the Holocaust. We owe it to Eva, and we owe it to all others who died at the hands of the Nazis. We owe it to the future generations. So everyone can do something. So if I may be so bold as to ask you for a favor today, I would ask you, choose something, do something. Whatever that is, whether it's a commitment to incorporating Holocaust education in your courses, or the need to talk about human dignity, or signing the pledge to preserve human dignity, whatever it is, taking a moment to remember the victims, we have to do something. It's our responsibility, not just, as I said, to the people who perished during the Holocaust, but also to everyone sitting in this room and to everyone who will sit in this room after us. This is the last picture that I have with Eva. Eva passed away on July 4th, right after finishing her final trip to Krakow. It was 1 year to the day that I last saw her. And I found out because the star basketball player from the college team that I took sent me a text message. He was very broken up about it, and he told me that she had made more of an impact on his life than he ever thought that she would. And after that, she had a memorial service, and as you can see, she wore blue. Their coach attended the memorial service. The team decided to wear blue in her honor and her memory. And I chose to stand here today and give this speech in her memory, because I can promise you that that is what Eva would have wanted. So thank you very much for being here today. Thank you for listening. And I hope that you will all take this, as I said, and go out and find a way to act now in order to remember the past and protect the future.